Before we dive into ARP spoofing, let's understand what is ARP. So ARP means Address Resolution Protocol. The logical address, which is IP address, is used by machine to send and receive messages. But the physical address, which is MAC address, of the OSI model is responsible for the actual communication to happen. So we should get the destination MAC address, which helps in communicating with other devices. This is where ARP comes into the picture. It is the protocol that is responsible for the mapping of IP addresses to their corresponding MAC addresses. The ARP protocols provided like two basic functions. First one is like resolving IPv4 addresses to MAC address. For a frame to be placed on a LAN media, it must be have a destination MAC address. When a packet is sent to the data link to encapsulate into a frame, the node refers to a cable into the memory to find a data link layer that is mapped into the destination IP addresses. Then the second one is maintaining of cache mapping. The ARP table is maintained dynamically. There are two ways that device can gather information. One way to monitor the traffic that occurs on the local network. As a node receives frame into the media, it can record the source IP and MAC addresses as a mapping into the ARP table. As frames are transmitted on the network, the device populated our ARP table with the address pairs. And another way the device can get address pair is to broadcast an ARP request. So let's talk about ARP spoofing and ARP process of making request to the IP, or even in short ARP spoofing or poisoning. So ARP spoofing is a technique where the attacker sends malicious ARP packets to the default gateway and to the host who is communicating with the default gateway in the local area network. The main intention is to associate the attacker's MAC address with the IP address of another host, such as the default gateway, causing any traffic that meant for the IP address to the sent to the attacker instead. It allows the attacker to modify traffic and intercept data frames. As a result, leading to a common attacking technology called in man-in-the-middle attack. So first, host P, which is unethical hacker, launch an ARP poisoning attack. Then hacker modified the ARP cache into host A. Then reroute the traffic of a host A to the attacker, as you can see in this picture. And finally, after reading the data packets, attacker route the traffic to default gateway. So imagine the host B in this scenario is an unethical hacker or hack attacker. He or she can be use some hacking tools like Ettercap and modify the ARP cache of the host and default gateway, then listen and capture the data frames that exchange between them. So let's see how we can use a tool like Ettercap to use or achieve such task. So let's first how to use the Ettercap. So if you have a Kali Linux operating system, then Ettercap program is by default installed on this system. Ettercap is a graphical interface that's very beginner friendly, unlike many of the programs that are command line only. You can use Ettercap on a command line also, but it also has a graphical interface and which is very easy to use. So at first just launch Ettercap on your Kali Linux, or if you have to install Ettercap, just type on a terminal apt install Ettercap, then it will just install on your Linux machine. Then when you open up the Ettercap, then it will show you this graphical user interface. Then what you have to do is click on this tick button. So first open the Ettercap program, then you will get a display as shown in this figure. So then just click the tick icon as the right top corner to run the Ettercap program. So as you can see, inside this there is target, host, views, filter, login, plugins. So what we have to do is we are going to use the host feature. So just click on host. So after that, just you have to see, we are going to scan for host. So just select scan for host to, and this will display, as you can see, the list of scan host on the target. Again, go inside the host and select the host option. As you can see, the host is available on this local network. To initiate the ARP poisoning attack, click on the host and the default gateway to add them into the target. So as shown in here and here. So after that, to start the ARP poisoning attack, click the globe icon. And top right corner and select the ARP poisoning in the man in the middle attack option. So as the attacker, you can use the Wireshark tool to trace the packet transfer between the host and the default gateway. So what it's gonna do is you are going to communicate with the HTTP protocol based website. So the moment you enter the username and password for their website, the attacker can filter the traffic. So this is the Wireshark, as you can see. So the attacker can filter the traffic the moment you enter the username and password, and it will notify the Ettercap program. So as you can see, we use the filter ARP request in Wireshark. Then after that, we got the filter frame that contain the password field, as you can see. Very easy. The password and the username are visible due to the usage of unencrypted HTTP protocol. So all are in the Wireshark. So there are the filter frames that contain the password field. Then after that, so explore the password field in the Wireshark as messages are not encrypted using the HTTP protocol. So then after that, Ettercap automatically detect the display packets and framed, as you can see in here, both for password field. So nowadays ARP poisoning is rare and avoided due to the reason like the uses of encrypted communication in HTTPS protocol, or like dynamic ARP inspection, static ARP entries, VPNs and packet filters. So this lecture is prepared to make awareness of such exploitation toward user and developers. Always use this knowledge to solve troubles that happens to be others and for yourself, but not cause any troubles for others. Knowing how to this exploit is like having superpowers. The action you do with your power defines who you are, whether you are superhero or supervillain. So make sure you use this for a better cases or good cases for yourself, and I would suggest you don't use this for other benefits. So that's all for Ettercap using the ARP poisoning to get the username and password credential. Stripping away the encryption offered by HTTPS, called HTTP strip, which is a serious cyber threat to many corporations since their employees are constantly on the move and require access to internet on the go. even though open non-secure Wi-Fi hotspots. Once attacker gain access to a network, they can act as a man-in-the-middle attack to intercept connection over the network. These intercept tactics are also be deployed against wire network, provided that someone gain access to a Ethernet port. HTTP and HTTPS are the application layer protocols in a TCP/IP model. As illustrated, so as many of you know, that HTTP uses a secure tunnel to transfer and receive data, which is commonly called SSL or TLS, which means secure socket layer or transport layer security, and therefore the suffix S is added to HTTPS. SSL is a standard security technology to use secure connection between a browser and a web server. This connection protects the all data traffic that remains private and integral. SSL is an industry standard and is used by millions of websites for protection and their web transaction with their customer. In the secure connection, SLL is used in the port 443 and normal internal connection used in the port 80. Basically, in the port 80, all network traffic connection is a clear text, so there is no encryption. When victim computer tries to connect a web server or uses a all popular site who uses the HTTPS, attacker which is in the middle provide the connection. So HTTP instead of HTTPS, they provide this because they provide HTTP instead of HTTPS. Thus, attacker can get all the information in the clear data connection HTTP and provide the connection to victim computer. So let's just switch our method. So what we are gonna do? So what we are gonna select our this IP to victim computer, which is Windows 7, and we are gonna use this as our gateway address, this IP, and we are gonna use this 1.3 IP to attacker computer, which is using the Kali Linux. So the first step would be attacker should open the IP forward with this computer. So as you can see, this will do this. So make sure you use this code on the terminal, which will open the IP forward in the computer. Then what you have to do is modify the IP table. So IP table take traffic inbound to our Kali Linux machines on which the destination is port 80. As you can see, port 80, which is listening through the use of SSL trip. Then the attacker should start the SSL trip tool in Kali for sniffing the connection, whose location is this one. Then attacker should start the spoof, as you can see, this tool to get in the man in the middle connection. So as you can see, this will get you all the traffic in this man in the middle connection. So in that point, SSL trip tool sniffing the connection between the computer to web server. As you can see, this command is for opening up the forward property. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna use IP table -t net -a. So what we're going to do, you are going changing IP table command into the terminal. So as you can see, you're gonna destination port would be 80 and it will be redirect to the port of this. So after that, the SSL trip will be this command. So as you can see, this is the log file and this is the SSL trip of Python file. So this is the command of the terminal. So and after that, we are gonna do is spoof. So this is our network interface in our Linux machine. This will vary from machine to machine. So you may have YLAN0 or ETH1. So as for my case, my machine was wireless. So as you can see, this means 0 means wired. So that's why this is means ETH0. Then what you have to do is you have to send this from this there, so that this IP to this IP. So as you already know, this is the gateway IP and this is our 1.2 victim computer. So this is the total rspoof command in the terminal. So after that, so when you enter this command in the terminal, they are gonna give you the password in a log file. As you can see, the attacker can see the password in a log file, which is the SSL log file from the Kali Linux machine terminal. So the username is this one, cyber@hotmail.com, and the password is that I test for purpose test passwords. So in this attackers can see the attack on your browser, because SSL trip downgrade the HTTPS to HTTP on the victim computer. As you can see in here, victim computer web browser connection is HTTP, not HTTPS, because it changed the HTTPS connection from HTTP in a. So that's all the SSL trip attack in man in the middle, and it's pretty easy, I think. So another one, so let's give you some brief overview of man in the middle in internet. So let's give you some man in the middle brief. So man in the middle attack based on the address resolution protocol. So ARP on the network system. So ARP table is switch content of the IP MAC matching of all the connected devices in the network. So ARP table that we previously used. So as you can see, ARP spoof, and ARP table is the switch content of the IP MAC, and ARP table of the switch can be changed by the attacker. Thus, all network traffic of the victim passing through the attack computer can access it. So it means the attack computer acts it as a switch for the victim computer. So this is called the ARP spoofing or ARP poisoning technique. And that is all for the SSL trip. Using a keylogger to intercept keys pressed on an infected computer can circumvent encryption used by email and secure check clients. The collected data can often reveal username, password, and potentially compromising and private information which hacker abuse for financial gain. Once a hacker has created a payload and established a backdoor on the target computer of their choice, they have the full power of Metasploit to help them perform whatever post-exploitation attack that needed to get what they want. If it's your computer, they could capture your screenshot, steal your browser password, recover your deleted file, and yes, they can see everything you're typing. Sometimes a penetration tester may have a remote access to a user machine, but he may not have the user password. Maybe the user has a very long and complex password that would just take too long to crack. What could he do? Metasploit in the Metasploit framework has a great utility for capturing keys pressed on the target machine. We will start with a system that we have already run on exploit and were successful in creating remote session with Metasploit. We connected to a session with the session command and now sitting in the Metasploit command. We will be starting with a system that we have already run on an exploit, and we successfully in creating a remote session with Metasploit. We connected to the session with session I command and now sitting in a Metasploit command. As we have already seen how easy it was to hack the Windows machine with the help of Metasploit framework. Once you got the Metasploit session, you can easily use the inbuilt keylogger module to spy on the Windows user. So once you get into the Metasploit session, just type sysinfo. So before that, make sure you use, as always, Kali Linux or any Linux distributor, because Metasploit is built in on Kali Linux, and most of the Linux distributors are better to use Kali Linux. So just type sysinfo in Metasploit session to view the target OS information. So after the type PS, so after that this is the information typing sysinfo. So after that just type PS in your command terminal to view all the running processes in Windows machine which you hacked with Metasploit. So in this screenshot you can see that there is a process ID of Explorer exe, this one as I am highlighted. So and the process is on 772, which we need before to start the keylogger module. To check your current process ID where you inject your payload, just type in this Metasploit session get PID. So just type get PID. As you can see, you will get your current PID, which is 1128, and to get PID 2 we have to do is explorer.exe PID. So as you can see in this all in here. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like when you start a remote keylogger. So when you be the capture keystroke, simply type keyscan start and it will start removing the sniffer, or it will start to remove the login. Now that we need to wait, this will take a couple of minutes until our victim types something on the keyboard. For example, like go ahead and open your browser and try to log in into Facebook account. Now back on the Kali system, to see what, simply type press enter keyscan dump. Then this will give you, as you can see in facebook.com I typed this one for gmail.com and this is a fake password. So and to stop the keylogger module you can use just keyscan dump and it will stop all the keylogger module. To view the Metasploit session, just easy session space -i, it will give you all the session of the Metasploit. Then let's talk about automatic key scanning with lockout keylogger. So now that would be great if we could automate the process. I mean, do we really want to sit there and hang out until the user leaves his system? It may take hours, days and even weeks if user doesn't use their machine or use their computer. You could force his desktop into locked mode and make him lock in again, but that is pretty suspicious and they will pretty much guess that something is wrong and they will just won't do anything until this is fixed. So what if we could do, or what if we could have Metasploit automatically find and migrate to the unlogon process, then scan the computer in ideal time and automatically put the user system into lock mode. Finally, what would be nice too is to, if the script notified you the user logback and gives you a text dump of his password, like me lockout underscore keylogger is an amazing script made by CG and Mubix. You need to start with an active session with system level privileges. So make sure you are in root mode on your Kali Linux. So just type background. To back out of the session to the return of the Metasploit prompt, just use this, use post/windows/capture to lockout underscore keylogger. So after that what you have to do is you have to set the session number to the active session. So in like our in is 1, so set session 1. So this is the session, so we are going to set our session to 1. So after that what you have to do is you have to set your PID value as per as this. So just then type show option, it will give you all of those details. So as you can see, there is no PID value is set. So previously what I have to do is set PID value. So set PID equal to PID space 1504. Then this PID will be set in here. As you can see, the PID is set to 1504. Then after that, just simply type exploit and logout keylogger automatically finds the WinLogon process and migrated to it. The program then begins to monitor the remote system idle time. At about 300 seconds of idle time, logout keylogger tries to log the user desktop remotely. Sometimes it fails and tries to log it again. So logout has successfully logged the workstation and began looking for keystrokes, as you can see. So as you can see, it's pretty easy on Windows machine to exploit. So make sure you use this on Kali Linux, because Kali Linux is best for penetration testing and out of all the Linux distributors that are available. So make sure you use Kali Linux. So in overall, we can say that we demonstrate how to use Metasploit in a Kali to capture keystroke from a remote system. We also learned that login password will not be recorded normally in a keystroke password, as the Windows or logon service uses a defined keylogger or defined keyboard buffer. But if we move our keylogger to the process, we can indeed capture logon credential. So we are also introduced to a handy program that migrates our session to WinLogon process, watches the idle time of the system, then logs it and captures the password when the user tries to log in. So logout keylogger, this one, automate the entire process from beginning to end. The user walks away from his PC, the skip waits a certain amount of idle time, then puts to computer into a locked mode. Then when he logs back, it is already set to scan the key paste. So it will set all those passwords in here in the terminal. This password could be a single password or even a complex one. It does not matter. Logout keylogger intercept it and display it as a plain text in the penetration tester machine. And as you can see, it's pretty easy. So I would suggest you to use this for testing purpose and not to use this on a other hacking purpose, because this is mostly illegal if you do this for hacking purpose. So make sure you use this for testing purpose or penetration testing in this case. So it is very good in a way in the Metasploit framework. Pivoting and relaying are advanced features for Metasploit. They allow you to implement sophisticated post-exploitation strategies and expand your penetration into otherwise directly inaccessible system. So in this lecture, I would like to show you a couple of techniques for pivoting that and also relaying that can be used after you have exploited the system. So what is pivoting? Pivoting is the unique technique of using an instance, which also referred as a plant or foothold, to be able to move around inside a network. Basically using the first compromise to allow even aid for compromise to other inaccessible systems. So in this scenario, we will using it for routing traffic from a normally non-routable network. So for example, like we are penetester, I am a penetester, and you pull the company directory and decide to target a user in the target IT department. You call up the user and claim you are from the vendor and would like them to visit your website in order to download a security patch. And at the URL you pointing them to, you are running them a Internet Explorer exploit. So first, when the target visits our malicious URL, a Metasploit session is open for us and giving us the full system. So it's very easy, just use this exploit, and this is the default, so you can choose any exploit you want, but we are going to use this Aurora exploit. So make sure if you want to use this, just use this. So after this, just type show option. It will give you all of those options that you need to know. As you can see, this is the server host, this is the port 8080. So what you have to do now is we have to change our this SRB host. So as you can see, L host, we change it to this IP, so it set it to this IP, and also we are going to exploit this. So as you can see, the handler exploit on this IP on this port. So when we connect to our Metasploit session and we run ipconfig and see that the exploit system is dual homed and a common configuration among IT staff. So as you can see, this is the session they are running and continuously running on this. As you can see, this is the same IP as in here. So very easy. So what you have to do now, after that, just type session -L, and this is gonna give you the active sessions. So we want to leverage this newly discovered information and attack this additional network. So Metasploit has an auto route Metasploit script that allow us to attack this second network through our first compromised machine. So just as you can see, as I told you, just type ipconfig, and then this will give you the, and this is the second session, as I was told about the second network through our first compromised machine. So now that we have added our additional route, okay, let me just define this as well. What you have to do now, run auto route -H. So this will run all the auto route on this mass task. So use route and ipconfig to command and learn available route. So as you can see, -P, this will give you the active routing table. So as you can see, this is the currently available. So now that we have added our additional route, we will escalate to system, dump the password hashes and background our Metasploit session. So just what you have to do now, get system. So as you can see, after doing the get system, it gave you the get system via the technique, first technique. So after that, just run the hash dump. As you can see, these are using and booting the system key, also getting the administrator hash. So now we need to determine if there are other system on the second network that we have discovered. So we will use the basic TCP port scanner to look for the port 139 to 445. So as you can see, if you see all the name and option, as you can see, concurrency, filter, you can check all of those by just simply pasting or typing rhost ports in here. So what we're going to do, we're going to set rhost, just set rhost to the IP that you want, then set rport. So this is the port, as you can see, it gives you, so it's better to use 1 to 1 between this range, it's better to use the port. Then the thread, set the thread to 50, and after that just run. As you can see, the TCP is open on both these 139 as well as looking. So you are using a basic TCP port scanner to look for the port 139 and port 445. As you can see, it gives also result TCP open on both of these. So it also scanned 256 of this hosted. So Auxiliary module execution all are completed. So we have discovered an additional machine on this network with port 139 and 445 which are open, as we previously see, as you can see, and we will try to reuse our gathered password hash with the exploit module. So just set host and all of those. As you can see, we are also going to set the exploit. These are the SMB pass exploit that we are going to use, and also we are going to use this payload. And as you can, I think you all know what this is. This is the Metasploit blind TCP method. So we are going to exploit this method, blind TCP underscore TCP. So the local administrator password is frequently the same across the entire enterprise. So as you can see, our attack has successful, and you can see previously and about the output that we have a Metasploit session connecting on 10.1.13.2. so this one 10.1.13.2 via our existing Metasploit session, this one 192.168.1.201. so this one. So running ifconfig on our nearly compromised machine shows that we have reached a system that is not normally accessible to us. As you can see, this is the machine that we are now access. We can do anything we want in this machine, and you can check all of those like files, session, or you can check any of those and do any of the things that you want to do using this method. You can check files on this compromised machine. You check what windows are using. You can skin grab. You can send file, receive file, and all of etc. all of the things you can do on this machine after exploiting this using pivoting. So at the end, as you can see, pivoting is an extremely powerful feature, and then is a critical capability to have on a penetration testing. Using a keylogger to intercept keys pressed on an infected computer can circumvent encryption used by email and secure chat clients. The collected data can often reveal username, password, and potentially compromising and private information which hacker abuse for financial gain. Once a hacker has created a payload and established a backdoor on the target computer of their choice, they have the full power of Metasploit to help them perform whatever post-exploitation attack that needed to get what they want. If it's your computer, they could capture your screenshot, steal your browser password, recover your deleted file, and yes, they can see everything you are typing. Sometimes a penetration tester may have a remote access to a user machine, but he may not have the user password. Maybe the user has a very long and complex password that would just take too long to crack. What could he do? Metasploit in the Metasploit framework has a great utility for capturing keys pressed on the target machine. We will start with a system that we have already run on exploit and were successful in creating remote session with Metasploit. We connected to a session with the session command and now sitting in the Metasploit command. We will be starting with a system that we have already run on an exploit, and we successfully in creating a remote session with Metasploit. We connected to the session with session I command and now sitting in a Metasploit command. As we have already seen how easy it was to hack the Windows machine with the help of Metasploit framework. Once you got the Metasploit session, you can easily use the inbuilt keylogger module to spy on the Windows user. So once you get into the Metasploit session, just type sysinfo. So before that, make sure you use as always Kali Linux or any Linux distributor, because Metasploit is built in on Kali Linux, and most of the Linux distributors are better to use Kali Linux. So just type sysinfo in Metasploit session to view the target OS information. So after the type PS, so after that this is the information typing sysinfo. So after that just type PS in your command terminal to view all the running processes in Windows machine which you hacked with Metasploit. So in this screenshot you can see that there is a process ID of Explorer exe, this one as I am highlighted. So and the process is on 772, which we need before to start the keylogger module. To check your current process ID where you inject your payload, just type in this Metasploit session get PID. So just type get PID. As you can see, you will get your current PID, which is 1128, and to get PID 2 we have to do is explorer.exe PID. So as you can see in this all in here. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like when you start a remote keylogger. So when you be the capture keystroke, simply type key scan start and it will start removing the sniffer, or it will start to remove the login. Now that we need to wait, this will take a couple of minutes until our victim types something on the keyboard. For example, like go ahead and open your browser and try to log in into Facebook account. Now back on the Kali system, to see what, simply type press enter key scan dump. Then this will give you, as you can see in facebook.com I typed this one for gmail.com and this is a fake password. So and to stop the keylogger module you can use just key scan dump and it will stop all the keylogger module. To view the Metasploit session, just easy session space -i, it will give you all the session of the Metasploit. Then let's talk about automatic key scanning with lockout keylogger. So now that would be great if we could automate the process. I mean, do we really want to sit there and hang out until the user leaves his system? It may take hours, days and even weeks if user doesn't use their machine or use their computer. You could force his desktop into locked mode and make him lock in again, but that is pretty suspicious and they will pretty much guess that something is wrong and they will just won't do anything until this is fixed. So what if we could do, or what if we could have Metasploit automatically find and migrate to the unlogon process, then scan the computer in ideal time and automatically put the user system into lock mode. Finally, what would be nice too is to, if the script notified you the user logback and gives you a text dump of his password, like me lockout _ keylogger is an amazing script made by CG and Mubix. You need to start with an active session with system level privileges. So make sure you are in root mode on your Kali Linux. So just type background. To back out of the session to the return of the Metasploit prompt, just use this, use post/windows/capture to lockout _ keylogger. So after that what you have to do is you have to set the session number to the active session. So in like our in is 1, so set session 1. So this is the session, so we are going to set our session to 1. So after that what you have to do is you have to set your PID value as per as this. So just then type show option, it will give you all of those details. So as you can see, there is no PID value is set. So previously what I have to do is set PID value. So set PID equal to PID space 1504. Then this PID will be set in here. As you can see, the PID is set to 1504. Then after that, just simply type exploit and lockout keylogger automatically finds the WinLogon process and migrated to it. The program then begins to monitor the remote system idle time. At about 300 seconds of idle time, logout keylogger tries to log the user desktop remotely. Sometimes it fails and tries to log it again. So logout has successfully logged the workstation and began looking for keystrokes, as you can see. So as you can see, it's pretty easy on Windows machine to exploit. So make sure you use this on Kali Linux, because Kali Linux is best for penetration testing, and out of all the Linux distributors that are available. So make sure you use Kali Linux. So in overall, we can say that we demonstrate how to use Metasploit in a Kali to capture keystroke from a remote system. We also learned that login password will not be recorded normally in a keystroke password, as the Windows or logon service uses a defined keylogger or defined keyboard buffer. But if we move our keylogger to the process, we can indeed capture logon credential. So we are also introduced to a handy program that migrates our session to WinLogon process, watches the idle time of the system, then logs it and captures the password when the user tries to log in. So logout keylogger, this one, automate the entire process from beginning to end. The user walks away from his PC, the skip waits a certain amount of idle time, then puts to computer into a locked mode. Then when he logs back, it is already set to scan the key paste. So it will set all those password in here in the terminal. This password could be a single password or even a complex one. It does not matter. Logout keylogger intercept it and display it as a plain text in the penetration tester machine. And as you can see, it's pretty easy. So I would suggest you to use this for testing purpose and not to use this on a other hacking purpose, because this is mostly illegal if you do this for hacking purpose. So make sure you use this for testing purpose or penetration testing in this case. So it is very good in a way in the Metasploit framework.
Hello everyone, let's talk about how we can writing custom scripts and executing our custom attacks in the help of man in the middle proxy. So workflow of MITM proxy. There are two types of MITM proxy workflow: explicit and transparent. These are explained below. Explicit proxy. In an explicit proxy configuration, the client browser is explicitly configured to use a proxy server, meaning the browser knows that all requests will go through a proxy. The browser is given the IP address and port number of the proxy service. You could also use a proxy auto configuration pack file to configure the browser to download the proxy settings from a web server. When a user makes a request, the browser connects to the proxy service and sends the request. So what is MITM, man in the middle? In cryptography and computer security, a man in the middle, monster in the middle, machine in the middle, or person in the middle attack is a cyber attack where the attacker secretly relays and possibly alters the communications between two parties who believe that they are directly communicating with each other. So what is MITM proxy? MITM proxy is your switch army knife for debugging, testing, privacy measurements, and penetration testing. It can be used to intercept, inspect, modify, and replay web traffic such as HTTP 1, 2, WebSockets, or any other SSL, TLS protocols, protected protocols. So have a look, guys. First, my command is ls and meet dump MITM proxy meet web in Kali Linux terminal. Inside terminal, now give command ettercap -tq -m arp. Now that we covered the first steps to get started with MITM proxy, and this is the ARP poisoning victims. I would like to develop a bit more one of the best features. Now give command -t net -a pre-routing -p TCP -j redirect destination port 80 to port 8080 and IP tables -t NAT -l. While writing add-ons in purely optional automating requesting, editing with custom scripts considerably extends the boundaries of MITM proxy. Through this post, we will see a few concrete examples of how you can use add-ons to test apps. If you already managed to set everything in order to run the program and catch requests, writing script should not be too complicated for you. Feel free to reuse and alter the examples provided in this video. Writing and executing scripts. As I mentioned earlier, scripts for MITM proxy must be written using the Python programming language. The Python syntax is not particularly complicated, and if you already used any object-oriented programming language, then you should be fine. One advice: through pay attention to indentation. Python is an indent sensitive language, which means that if uses leading white spaces inside of curly brackets in order to compute the indentation level of the line. To execution the add-on, just save it in a file named myscript.py and execute the command mitm proxy -s dot slash myscript.py. Response before it reaches the device. MITM proxy allows developers to access to multiple HTTP, TCP, WebSocket, or generic events. The full list of supported events is available in the MITM proxy documentation, but let's have a look at several handy ones. Load is triggered when you launch MITM proxy. It is very convenient if you need to adapt the tools settings to run a script. The request and response objects. Both request and response objects are part of the http flow variable passed as a parameter to all http events. Editing the request or response is quite simple as long as you have hints about the object structure. My best advice here is to directly have a look at the project in GitHub repository. And you guys can also use a special user agent for testing, create an editable cache for API responses. Some useful command line. MITM proxy is your switch army knife for debugging, testing, privacy measurements, and penetration testing. It can be used to intercept, modify, and replay web traffic such as HTTP1, HTTP2, WebSockets, or any other SSL, TLS protected protocols. You can prettify any decode a variety of message types ranging from HTML to protobuf, intercept specific messages on the fly, modify them before they reach their destination, and replay them to a client or server later on. And web interface use MITM proxies main features in a graphical interface with MITM web. So that's it guys, hope you guys liked it, and thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, so in this lecture we will be writing a custom script. So first we are going to do is build out a ping sweeper script, and it's going to be pretty basic and simple. So before we get our writing a script, we need to learn about how to narrow down the result. So first let's narrow down the result. Now we need to ping an IP address within our system. So in this picture, as you can see, that there is a response from that address, and then pressing Ctrl+C will cancel the ultimate response. And there is another way that we can do is we want to send one packet to C whether it's allowed or not, and we can do this by adding a -C1 behind the ping command, and this is a count of 1 and it allows the terminal to send one packet. For instance, if we say 10, and it will send 10 packets and it will appear in the terminal, and this makes sense. So now we are going to put the command into a text file, and with the command shown in this picture beside, we can just get the text file and it will show the same result as previously. So now we want to narrow down the result and what you want to extract from here. So in this example, I am interested in the return IP address that has a valid response. So if we ping a non-valid IP address, then there is a no response from the address, and the difference is, as you can see in here. What's the difference? When we get back to the response back, it will see a 64-bit byte from the valid IP address and vice versa. And later, if we are doing a sweep to the network, then we will be able to narrow down the result. So then we are going to narrow down on specifically on 64 byte. So we will be adding the pipeline, which is this one. This is called pipeline. Behind the cat.i, behind after this and behind this, and the pipeline symbol allow us to add additional command. Then we will be using a command called grep, which is going to grab any line from the specific word that you specify in this command. So in this picture you can see that you will be able to notice with the grep that the terminal only shows the line that only contains 64 bytes. So this proves that we have archived a response to the ping. So we want to extract the IP address from the line that we obtained. So now what we do is we narrow down some more, and this is a tool called cut, and then what you can do is, so in this picture we have a cut which is combined with -d, which is delimiter, and the delimiter is what we are going to be cutting on. So we are giving the delimiter of a space, which means that the space between the line will be removed. Then we have a field that we want to retrieve back from this cut, and the field for is chosen, which is the IP address. Thus this command will be cut or remove in the space between the line and retrieve the back to the field of 4. So if we try the IP address that we obtained in last command, then we have the colon, and in back of IP address that attached to it, we can ping it with this IP address due to the colon which is attached to the IP address. Therefore we actually need to remove it before performing a ping sweep. So now we are going to use a command called tr. So which means that the translate and add another delimiter which is -d to remove the colon. Thus the result is in valid form of IP address that we can be used for IP sweep. So let's now talk about the script writing. So we are going to start with some basic script and add on the process. So the first line will use the declaration according to any script language, and the .h also indicate that we are running bash script. And the second line is for loop that in the sequence of 1 until 254, and it will do the third line, and that third line will be used for ping that counts to 1. So the $1 will be used input in order to ping it, and the $IP will be sequence of 1 until 254, and the fourth line will be the finish line. So in here the chmod command +x, so chmod +x is used to change the permission, as we all know, of the script, and we will be running the script with command which is this one /. So this will put out all the information from the script that we just run, and at the end we can add the IP address that I have obtained into the file, and we can then use this information later on. So before we continue, I just wanted to improve a script a little bit, so I just did some things. So if we don't enter an input, then it will produce a list of errors. So if we don't have $1 as user input, then it will echo the error message. However, if we have an input, then it will return the second part of the coding. Now if we don't enter any user input, then this will produce, and this will give you a error message. So then what you need to do is you need to loop in one line. So we can write a loop in line. In this loop we are going to run through the all IP address in the iplist.txt, and then this will continue with semicolon and do nmap script with the declaration of the IP address, which is $IP. So lastly, finishing with this, we are done. And however, the script requires a root privilege. So now in here, as you can see, -p means, so this -p means the port, -ss means for stealth scan, and -t4 means the speed scan, and the t4 speed ranges are from 0 for slow and stealthy for 5. Stealthy to 5 is fast. So to solve the issue, we can switch to the root with command sudo su root and run this command, and we have, like, as you can see, 3 processes are all at once. So in the nmap, the port for the IP address list will be filtered. Then at the end, we just run like 3 nmap scans at once instead of copy paste one by one. So that's all about the writing script. So this scripting is really important if you have the chance to get into the penetration testing. So there are more advanced scripting which you can learn by yourself, exploring to the internet and watching couple of our videos, which I also talked about advanced technique of advanced scripting. So you can go and check that out. So that's all about the scripting.
Hello everyone, hope you guys are well. So let's talk about network reconnaissance. So the methodologies of reconnaissance is target identifications and selection, target profiling, target validation, and types. There are two types of reconnaissance: passive reconnaissance and active reconnaissance. Active reconnaissance is network and system configuration related and passive is website, web application, and active is operating system, just like this. In the context of cybersecurity, reconnaissance is the practice of covertly discovering and collecting information about a system. This method is often used in ethical hacking or penetration testing. Like many cybersecurity terms, reconnaissance derives from military languages, where it refers to a mission with the goal of obtaining information from enemy territory. How reconnaissance works? Reconnaissance generally follows 7 steps, like collect initial information, determine the network range, identify active machines, find access points and open ports, fingerprint the operating system, discover services on ports, map the network. Using these steps, an attacker will aim to gain the following information about network, and the information is file permissions, running network services, OS platform, trust relationships, user account information. One of the most common techniques involved with reconnaissance is port scanning, which sends data to various TCP and UDP ports on a device and evaluates the response. So there is some difference between passive and active reconnaissance. There are two main types of reconnaissance: active and passive reconnaissance. With active reconnaissance, hackers interact directly with the computer system and attempt to obtain information through techniques like automated scanning or manual testing and tools like ping and netcat. And active recon is generally faster and more accurate but riskier because it creates more noise within a system and has a higher chance of being detected. And passive reconnaissance gathers information without directly interacting with systems using tools such as Wireshark and Shodan and methods such as OS fingerprinting to gain information. How to prevent reconnaissance? Organizations can use penetration testing to determine what their network would reveal in the event of a reconnaissance attack. During testing, organizations can deploy port scanning tools which scan large networks and determine which hosts are up, and vulnerability scanners which known vulnerabilities. Reconnaissance attacks technique perform an information query of a target and description. The threat actor is looking for initial information about a target. Various tools exist, including the Google Search Organization's website, Whois, and more. And technique initiated a plank sweep of the target network and description. The information query usually reveals the target's network address, and the threat actor can now initiate a ping sweep to determine which IP addresses are active. Technique is initiated a port scan of active IP addresses and description. This is used to determine which ports of services are available. Examples of port scanners include Nmap, Superscan, Angry IP Scanner, and NetScan tools. And another technique was run vulnerability scanners, and the description is this is to query the identified ports to determine the type and version of the application and operating system that is running on the host. Examples of tools include Nipper, Senua, PSI Core Impact, Nessus version 6, and Saint and OpenBAS. Run exploitation tools is another technique, and the description is the threat actor now attempts to discover vulnerable services that can be exploited. A variety of vulnerability exploitation tools exist, including Metasploit, Core Impact, SQL Map, Social Engineer Toolkit, and NetSparker. So there is some relation or network reconnaissance for SQL injection. So first we need to know what is SQL injection. SQL, or structured query language, is the standard language for interacting with relational databases. In apps and other types of programming, databases are used to store user data such as usernames and passwords. Databases are also often the most effective secure solution for storing other types of data, from public blog posts and comments to confidential bank account numbers. SQL statements often use arguments to pass data from users into secure databases or vice versa, unless the values in these user supplied SQL arguments are secured by sanitizing or prepared statements. Attackers can use the places where your app communicates with a database with a SQL argument to gain access to confidential information and other secured areas. So what can attackers do with a SQL injection attack? SQLI attacks make use of vulnerabilities in code at the point where it accesses a database. By hijacking this code, attackers are able to access, modify, and even delete secured data. When SQLI attacks are useful, attackers can log into an app or a website front end without a password, access, extract, or delete stored data from secured databases, create their own database records, or modify exists records, opening the door for further attacks. And anatomy of SQL injection attack. In the reconnaissance stage, which entails the research to identify and select targets, attackers will look for places in your app where they can pass unexpected values to SQL statements, suppressing error messages simply isn't enough. Common methods for discovering SQL vulnerabilities include adding single quotes and semicolons into user input data and looking for error messages that return information about database structure and naming schemas. It isn't as though you are always going to against a person that you simply need to outsmart. SQL injection attacks are easy to automate, which means you need the best defense in both brain power and scanning tools. Once they have found vulnerabilities in your app, attackers will create their own SQL statements and use them to manipulate your app's behavior. If their attack is successful, attackers will be able to gain access confidential data. And there is some types of SQL injection, and this is SQL injection error based, blind based, and in the blind based there is two types, boolean based and time based. So this is it, guys. Hope you guys liked it, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, let's talk about rogue access point and how rogue access point works. The attack using a fraudulent access point, rogue access point, is to create a wireless network without encryption so that anyone can connect to it. They are man in the middle attacks. Unlike the evil twin attack and most other Wi-Fi attacks, the purpose of the fraudulent access point is not Wi-Fi passwords. The main goal is the traffic of the user against which the mediator is attacking. For this situation, apply absolutely all methods of attacking man in the middle. Set up rogue access points. Setting up a wireless access point is to establish the actual AP itself as well as ensure its connection to the internet. There are various tools for this. You can configure various network configurations. There are also tools like Wi-Fi Pumpkin that automate the process of raising the AP and working with traffic. I want to show another solution that shows you how to set up rogue access point. In my opinion, more stable and flexible than Wi-Fi Pumpkin. Creating an open access point, we need a tool create AP installation on Kali Linux. Sudo apt get install. This is the command. To create an access point, we need a Wi-Fi card and an internet connection in any way via wire or via a second Wi-Fi card to work in a virtual machine. One external Wi-Fi card is sufficient if the computer is accessed in any other way. If the wireless card fully supports the AP mode, then it is enough only because it can simultaneously be a client for connecting to the internet. I always upload network manager for any work with Wi-Fi networks, and therefore I do this sudo system-t1 stop network manager. Depending on the network settings, then you may lose your internet connection and you will have to manually configure your Wi-Fi network. To start wireless access point with create AP, and now just run create AP sudo create underscore AP. If you do not know which of your interfaces is wireless, then run command sudo iwdevdev. This command will display the names of the wireless interfaces only. I want to create AP named free Wi-Fi, then my command is sudo create AP wln1 wlan0 free Wi-Fi. Kill WPS supplicant, and the command is kill all -9 WP underscore supplicant. Then everything went well. Try to connect to it. There will be entries like this. Sudo create underscore AP. Features of man in the middle attack on rogue access point. You can analyze and modify data using Ettercap, man in the middle, proxy, netcrats, any other tools you are used to working with. The features are that you do not need to ARP spoofing. Then install gem install Ettercap and Linux command. Suppose I want to view traffic from Ettercap, and command is sudo Ettercap -x -i wlan1. Security measures with rogue access point. Do not forget that the users who connect are on our internet. They are connected to the network with our IP. If any resourceful citizen wants to anonymously say everything he thinks about the ruling party installation in Kali Linux, the command is tor for sudo apt get install tor. Open tor settings file for sudo gedit and enter there. It is not yet possible to restart the service, otherwise the tor service simply does not rise due to an error. And run tor for the command is sudo system ct1 start tor if you had tor installed before restart the service. So guys, that's it. Hope you guys liked it, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, let's talk about evil twin attack with captive portal. So we can't crack hash all the time. Evil twin attacks captures handshake hash. It creates fake AP. Also, it performs death attack on original network. User connects to fake AP. There will be a prompt sign in to the Wi-Fi and asks for password, verifies the hash with the password entered. So first open terminal, Linux terminal, and rooted. Make sure it rooted, and give command if config. So what is an evil twin attack? An evil twin attack is a spoofing cyber attack that works by tricking users into connecting to a fake Wi-Fi access point that mimics a legitimate network. Once a user is connected to an evil twin network, hackers can access everything from their network traffic to private login credentials. Give command apt install argjdon c to install this package in your Kali machine. Tibbo, then give command argjdon Open another terminal. Evil twin attacks get their name from their ability to imitate legitimate Wi-Fi networks to the extent that they are indistinguishable from one another. This type of attacks is particularly dangerous because it can be nearly impossible to identify, read onto user data. An evil twin attack works. You guys can create DOS attack handshake tools, even to evil twin attacks, WPS attacks, WEP attacks, enterprise attacks by this air jet dawn. How an evil twin attack works. The most dangerous evil twin attacks work by tricking victims into thinking that they are connecting to a reliable public Wi-Fi network. To make the attack as believable as possible, hackers typically use the steps like choosing a location with free Wi-Fi. Hackers choose a busy location with free popular Wi-Fi like an airport, library, or coffee shop to execute their attack. These places often have multiple access points with the same name, making it easier for a hacker's fake network to go unnoticed. And step 2, setting up a Wi-Fi access point. Next, the hacker creates a new hotspot using the same name, service set identifier SSID name as the legitimate network. They can use almost any device to do this, including phones, laptops, portable routers, and tables. Some hackers may even use a Wi-Fi pineapple to achieve a broader range. And step 3 is creating a fake captive portal. If you have ever logged into a public Wi-Fi network, you probably encountered a captive portal page. These typically require you to enter a password or other basic information to access the network. While many legitimate networks use these, hackers can easily replicate them to trick users into sending over their login information. Unfortunately, it can be nearly impossible to tell the difference between legitimate and fake captive portal page if the hacker knows that they are doing. And after this, step 4 is setting up closer to potential victims. Once a hacker has finished setting up the evil twin access point and fake captive portal page, they may move their device or router closer to potential victims to create stronger signals, and this convince people to choose their network over the weaker ones and forces some devices to connect automatically. And step 5, monitoring and stealing user data. Once a victim has connected their device to an evil twin network, the hacker can monitor everything they do online, from scrolling through social media accounts to checking bank statements. If a user logs into any of their accounts while connected to the network, the hacker can collect their login credentials. This is especially dangerous if the user uses the same credentials for multiple sensitive accounts. Two windows will be opened. One with the handshake capturer and other with the attack to force clients to reconnect. So in this situation, don't close any window manually. Script will do when needed in about 20 seconds maximum. This is the procedure. So cybersecurity risks, evil twin attacks propose a significant cybersecurity risks for both end users and business. And protect yourself from an evil twin attack you can take to protect yourself when connecting to public Wi-Fi networks. The easiest way to protect yourself from an evil twin attack is to use a personal hotspot instead of public Wi-Fi whenever possible, and this encourages that you always connect to a reliable network in public spaces and prevents hackers from accessing your data. And about unsecured Wi-Fi hotspot and disable auto connect, never log into private accounts on public Wi-Fi, use a VPN to encrypt traffic, stick to HTTPS website, use two-factor authentication. And what to do if you fall victim to an attack? If you discover that a hacker has breached your data through an evil twin attack, you can file a complaint with Consumer Complaint Center. You should also contact your local police department and bank or credit card company. And it is just one method that hackers use to gain access to sensitive information online. So that's it, guys. Hope you guys liked it, and thanks for watching. Attacks can be difficult to identify, but there are multiple steps. Hello everyone, let's talk about creating fake captive portals. A captive portal, a web page is encountered that requires certain actions before internet access is granted. A simple captive portal forces the user to at least look at, if not read, an acceptable user use policy AUF page, and then click on a button indicating agreement to the terms of the policy. Presumably, this can help absolve the provider from liability in the event the user commits criminal or other destructive activity while logged on. In some captive portals, advertisements for the provider's sponsors are displayed, and the user must click through them or close the windows in which they appear before accessing the internet. Some captive portals require the entry of a pre-assigned user ID and password before accessing the internet. Such authentication may discourage the use of wireless hotspots as sites for carrying and criminal activities. Most servers with captive portals include antivirus and firewall programs to help protected users. So with captive portal authentication provides an easy point of entry for malicious actors looking to gain entry to a guest user's device and through that the larger corporate network. The fact that users' devices must automatically lead the captive portal web page and the associated JavaScript directly on their device before accessing the internet means that they are essentially putting their security in the hands of the network administrators who manage the particular public Wi-Fi network. If the network has already been hacked or they are running firewalls or other network equipment that is vulnerable, you are essentially giving hackers a direct access to your laptop, tablet, or smartphone. When you load that captive portal login page, this kind of access point can hack. For example, there have been a number of campaigns, including Dark Hotel, was the first uncovered by Kaspersky Labs, and a vulnerability in Gate routers discovered by Cyclone, which was used to target guests at high-end business hotels. However, malicious actors have hacked into networks of hotel chains, thereby gaining access to the wireless networks the hotels provide. This makes it easy for them to access the devices of hotel guests. As soon as the guest connects to the network, the malicious actors are waiting. They still have to find a known exploit or 0-day, but they don't have to go through a VPN or firewall because all of that isn't even up yet. In addition, it is relatively easy for hackers to create their own Wi-Fi hotspot that spoof legitimate captive portals. These phony pages, known as evil twins, trick users into connecting them and then so now let's check this in Linux. Kali Linux root terminal. Just give command nano hotspot .config and host apd root host apd.config -b, and configuration file is showing. Now give command cd part. A captive portal is, for example, a public Wi-Fi network names ESS, which leads to an internet connection, which redirects all traffic to a specific login pages until you log in the system. Typical applications are hotel, airport, park, free Wi-Fi. Captive portals disadvantages also, and this is messing up with networking transparency through redirecting DNS and HTTP. All users can usually see your encrypted traffic and possibly redirect your logging too. WPA based authentication is much better, but is often seen as more complicated for the end user compared to captive portals and require pre-arranged authentication. There is work in process for standardizing the captive portal protocols. Now give command var www.html AI replay ng -0 a and the t-shark -I. So how the captive portals login is activated? So what is captive portal isolation? Captive portal isolation involves the use of a combination firewall and hardware VPN with a built-in stateless sandboxed web browser. It works as follows: the user connects via Wi-Fi or Ethernet to the hardware VPN. Then they use the hardware VPN to connect to the internet. The stateless sandboxed web browser that is built into the hardware VPN is actually what loads to the captive portal, and it then presents a screen capture of the captive portal on the user's device. So automated login for captive portals in Linux. Every time you connect to a private network, may it be your college, office, school, etc., the captive portal screen appears where you have to enter your credentials provided by the organization, and the idea is to automate that process so that whenever you are connected to any router in the same network, it automatically gets logged in. So this is it, guys. So hope you guys liked it, and thanks for watching.
Disposable VMs is a very common practice across penetration testing. It helps you to not only cover the traces but also in general penetration testing workflow. Using disposable VMs is considered a best practice in any penetration testing engagement, from wireless penetration testing to a web application penetration testing. The main idea of disposable virtual machine is having one virtual machine in per engagement. This makes your penetration testing workflow way easier, since every time you start the penetration testing, you have a fresh new virtual machine, and without any configuration from previous client. You don't need to configure every time. And when you finish your penetration testing engagement, you can simply archive the virtual machine or destroy the data by deleting the virtual machine. As your data will be out contained inside one VM, you don't need to hunting the files in your system for deletion. everything is in one place. Also, disposable virtual machine provide client segregation, which you avoid because where you mix the data from two clients and you don't want the data from company A being the same virtual machine where data from company B is stored. So having VMs, having virtual VMs is will avoid the data contamination. The meaning that each virtual machines will have the data from only just one client. Also, the use of virtual machine make the process of data destruction way easier because all the data is contained and encrypted just in one place. So let's look at some of the good practices when working with disposable virtual machines. As mentioned before, it is important to have one virtual machine per engagement. Never use the same virtual machine for more than one client. Since you don't want to mix up the data from previous client, it is also a good idea making this as an habit. Whenever starting a new project, create a new virtual machine, and whenever finishing some project, then archive or delete them to make this process very much convenient or very much easier. You may create few virtual machine templates. So personally, I have 3 or 4 templates that I use. So for example, for penetration testing template, I basically use a list of virtual machine and copy out the custom script that I use to the desktop. And also I also made sure that the network was working and the driver were installed with that one. So I saved a virtual machine in a port and that in my template library. So now every time I start a new client, I simply just copy the virtual machine that I modified, then the password, and then start to use it. And also remember, each virtual machine should have its own defined password. Do not use the same password for all your clients, and make sure you use the defined password for each of your clients. And talking about the password, which is a very important thing is to encrypt the hard drive of a virtual machine. If you are booting the machine player, if your virtual machine player doesn't have this feature, you can simply increase the virtual machine files and with some encryption tools such as that can be prepared. So never leave the virtual machine encrypted, and nowadays use one password for each point. So never use the password, and to make sure you never lose your working process, and then create of the device backup. I personally have an encrypted external hard drive where I keep all my virtual machines from previous clients. It is a double layer encryption because the external hard drive is fully encrypted and the virtual machine files are also encrypted with defined passwords. So I think it is a little bit of paranoia, but if you are in the security field, you need to do the good practices, and this will help you to get better in all of those techniques. So in terms of data description, this is whenever you are finishing your engagement, and if you don't require the data anymore, so make sure you delete the virtual machine that you are using. So there are some open source tools for Windows and Linux for the security deletion, but if you keep everything encrypted, even if someone like any other attacker is able to recover the files, the files will be encrypted, and that's why it is important to keep everything encrypted, which includes your reports and notes and etc. So that's the basic uses of, and that's all you need to know about the disposable virtual machines.
Hello everyone, let's changing our MAC addresses manually. There are two methods for spoofing a MAC address: installing and configure either iProach2 or MAC changer. Both of them are outlined below. iProut2. First, you can check your current MAC address with the command IP link show interface. When interface is the name of your network interface, the section that interests us at the moment is the one that has link ETR followed by a 6-byte number. It will probably look something like this: link ETR 001D9858D13A, like this. The first step to spoofing the MAC address is to bring the network interface down. It can be accomplished with the command IP link set dev interface down. Next, we actually spoof our MAC. Any hexadecimal value will do, but some networks may be configured to refuse to assign IP addresses to a client whose MAC does not match up with any of known vendors. Therefore, unless you control the networks you are connecting to, use MAC prefix or a real vendor, basically the first 3 bytes, and use random values for next 3 bytes. For more information, you guys can watch you guys can read an article in Wikipedia. To change the MAC, we need to run the command IP link set dev interface address, then it changes. And MAC changer, another method uses MAC changer. It provides a variety of features such as changing the address to match a certain vendor or completely randomizing it. Install the package MAC changer. The spoofing is done on per interface basis. Specify network interface name as interface. In each of the following commands, the MAC address can be spoofed with a fully random address: MAC changer -r interface to randomize only device specific bytes of current MAC address, that is, so that if the MAC address was checked it would still register as being from the same vendor. You would run the command MAC changer -e interface. To change the MAC address to a specific value, you would run MAC changer -mac the equal address and interface, where address is the MAC you wish to change to. Finally, to return the MAC address to its original permanent hardware value, type MAC changer -p interface. So changing MAC address, go Kali Linux and give command ifconfig, then give command MAC changer -r eth0, and you find current MAC address or permanent MAC address and new MAC address. Give command again ifconfig, and command MAC changer -m 001122334455 ETSO. Again, if config and successfully complete it. On the other hand, you guys can make a fake MAC address by also give this command sudo make changer -s etso 0 then give again command sudo if config etso down and sudo make changer -s -r etso again give command sudo if config eth0 up and make changer sudo make changer -s eth0. So here you guys can see current MAC and permanent MAC. So this is the procedure. So this is it guys, hope you guys liked it and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, let's talk about some Wi-Fi penetration testing methods. So, are wireless networks dangerous? Wireless networks offer incredible flexibility of organizations, giving employees extensive access to data and systems. However, they also act as a very straightforward entry point for cyber attacks. Threats to Wi-Fi networks are unique, and the challenges and risks can be hugely detrimental to an organization. Wireless networks, if implemented insecurely, can grant attackers access to internal corporate resources from external locations beyond the physical company premises. There are numerous opportunities for threats to occur in wireless infrastructure. Below is a list of some common network vulnerabilities: rogue access points, spoofing, guest Wi-Fi weakness, WPA keys and packet injection vulnerabilities, default router setups, poor encryption algorithms, weak passwords, zero configurations on a Wi-Fi network. Wireless penetration testing can help identify weakness, vulnerabilities, and architectural flaws that would allow attackers to obtain sensitive information via a wireless solution. Wireless security under the IEEE 802.11 standard is inherently insecure. Bridewell Consulting can help your organization access your organization's current security posture of your infrastructure and by extension its supporting procedures. Our wireless penetration tests will consist of numerous testing procedures to identify security issues and assess your wireless infrastructure's reliability and how susceptible it is to potential attackers. So, types of wireless penetration testing. A Wi-Fi network penetration test can typically include anything from the following tests: identification of Wi-Fi networks by way of information or signal leakage and wireless fingerprinting, pinpointing opportunities for network penetration either by evading WLAN wireless local area network access control measures or using wireless connectivity, and determining encryption weaknesses by performing encryption cracks, session hijacking, or wireless sniffing. Some service attack or test, whatever you say, is man in the middle attack testing, wireless denial of service, Bluetooth attacks. Man in the middle testing involves intercepting communications between an entity and a victim. This involves either injecting malicious software, usually by phishing, or physical proximity to the intended victim. Man in the middle attacks can come from access to unsecured routers where tools can be inserted between devices and websites to capture login details and personal or sensitive information. And wireless denial of service, a DOS attack is a malicious targeted attack which can disable a WLAN. Wireless networks are vulnerable to DOS attacks. The bandwidth and resources available to intended users is overwhelmed, thus forcing it to shut down. Hackers can use other computers on a network to send packets to the server, reducing its bandwidth for other legitimate users. And Bluetooth attack. Cyber attackers can launch attacks on Bluetooth devices via several methods: bluejacking, sending unsolicited messages to nearby devices via images, texts, or sound clips, blue snarfing, or even blue bugging, which gives attackers control over mobile devices. So, as previously started, we will focus on the methodology and steps for testing the Wi-Fi network and give examples of certain attacks and tools that will accomplish our goal. Wireless reconnaissance, identifying wireless networks, vulnerability research, exploitation, wireless penetration, and this is for wireless penetration test. Reporting, remediation and security controls, executive reports. Below, so step 1, wireless reconnaissance. Before jumping straight into the hacking, in every penetration testing process is the information gathering phase. Due to the nature of Wi-Fi, the information you gather is going to occur via word driving, and this is an information gathering method that includes driving around a premise to snipe out Wi-Fi signals. To do this, you will require the following equipment: a car or any other transportation vehicle, a laptop, and a Wi-Fi wireless network adapter, packet capture and analysis software. Most of the information you gather here will be useful but encrypted, as most, if not all, companies are the latest Wi-Fi protocol WPA2. This Wi-Fi protocol protects the access point by utilizing encryption and uses EAPOL authentication. And step 2, identify wireless networks. The next step in Wi-Fi penetration testing is scanning or identifying wireless networks. Prior to this phase, you must set your wireless card in monitor mode in order to enable packet capture and specify your WLAN interface. ARMAN NG start WLAN 0. After your wireless card starts listening to wireless traffic, you can start scanning process with air dump in order to scan traffic on different channels. Air dump NG WLAN 0 MON. An important step in decreasing your workload during the scanning process is to force the air dump to capture traffic only on a specific channel, like air dump NG C11 BSSID, like this. Vulnerability research. Step 3. After finding Wi-Fi access points through scanning, the next phase of the text will focus on identifying vulnerabilities on that access point. Most common vulnerability in the four-way handshake. Step 4, exploitation, like de-authenticating a legitimate client, capturing the ethical initial four-way handshake when the legitimate client reconnects, running an offline dictionary attack to crack the captured key. Since we already started capturing the traffic on a specific channel, we will now proceed with the next step, de-authenticating a legitimate client. We want to capture the four-way handshake that occurs when every client authenticates to an access point. We must try and de-authenticate a legitimate client that is already connected. And the command is airplay ng DEAUTH5 and target, capturing the initial handshake. During the process of capturing traffic after the de-authentication packets, you will find it. So dictionary attack on the captured key, command aircrack ng -b. Since capturing keys from the four-way handshake and before forcing it offline is one of the most effective ways to gain unauthorized access, we placed the emphasis on this one practical attack. Other practical attacks on wireless networks include the deployment of a rogue access point within the company. And the main idea is overpower the signals. Step 5, reporting, structuring all of your steps, methods and findings into a comprehensive document is the most important step. And step 6, remediation and security controls. So this is all the information, guys. Hope you guys liked it. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, let's talk about real world example of Wi-Fi and weird hacking. Types of attacks on Wi-Fi, like hacking WPA, WPA2 passwords, WIP attacks, hacking WPA spin, WPA downgrade, replacing a true access point with a fake scam access point, attack on Wi-Fi access point from the global and local networks, and denial of service attacks, Wi-Fi DOS, attacks on specific services and functions of routers. This is all the attacks method on Wi-Fi, all types of hacking technique is this. So cracking for WEAP, as I previously stated, WEAP is extremely simple to crack. Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's legal. So make sure that you have permission to do this to any network you are practicing on before launching this kind of attack. While it's very likely the attack will succeed and it's good to know this skill, the risk that the network you are attacking is a honeypot is much higher than the average encrypted network. WIP is fundamentally broken, so very few people will choose to use it. Another thing you should consider is that you will be very likely not to be first person to crack that WIP network. Depending on the intentions of the person who got there first, the network could be doing anything from stealing credentials to providing a VPN endpoint for very bad stuff. Because you don't know what could be going on, be very cautious about connecting to networks that could be used for nefarious purposes. If WIP is implemented in a business, cracking WIP is often the first line of attack for a presenter. What you will need to get started to crack a WIP network, you will need to be able to stimulate enough network traffic to cryptographically attack the key. The best way to do this is to use a wireless network adapter that's capable of packet injection. This means our adapter will be able to send forged packets to our target network, allowing us to replay anything that would cause the router to provide the amount of traffic we need. We have tested several Panda wireless network adapters like the PAU06 and PAU09 and found them to work well for packet injection with Kali Linux. We have a list of the best complicatable network adapters available. Now open the Kali Linux machine. Go to terminal. Here is many information about this. If config, now give command iconfig. So here is my no wireless extensions and no wireless extensions ETASO, because this is I show you for only teaching, and I'm not gonna hack anyone's wireless. I'm just showing you guys the procedure in detail. Now give another command if config wlan down. There is a error while getting interface flags, no such device. give command airman ng check kill so the need to root for this. Just need your terminal be rooted and try this. Now let's try another command. If config wlen 0 and mod monitor. All the command need to cracking the password, but unfortunately my terminal is not rooted for some purpose. So you guys just watch carefully. To fix the issue, I rooted my terminal and work on this, and here is the output between all of these codes, all of these commands, and how it works. Just give command air dump ng bssid, copy selection and paste here. gul wlan 0, because channel 6, this is 6 channel written upper side, upper portion, and starting. Simply split the terminal and give command air crack ng gul 01.cap, and this is decryption history, decrypted correctly. So WEP cracking, some sample case, like we will snipe data packets using airdump ng as we did before. Airdump ng channel bssid, write file name, interface, Example like this: channel 6 BSSID 11.22, or simultaneously we will use a. Hey there, in this tutorial I'll show you guys scanning network, and inside this I will show you guys scanning network. First I will show vulnerability scanning. Inside vulnerability scanning I will show vulnerability scanning definition and basics. After that I will show Nessus full demonstration, and after completing Nessus I will show you guys Skipfish and Vega demonstration. After completing Skipfish and Vega I will show you guys Nmap scripting engine running NEC script full demonstration, and after completing that I will show Metasploit scanner modules demonstration. After completing Metasploit demonstration I will show OWASP JAP demonstration. Okay, and completing vulnerability scanning I will show you guys scan out of your own network, and inside scan out of your own network I will show two step, like number one, two part. Number one, scan out of your own network part 1, and then part 2. After completing scan network I will show you guys real world example of scanning and demonstration. Hello there. So today I am discuss about scanning basic and definition, all the definitions. So why scanning? Network security assessment, evaluation and auditing the security, firewall, penetration test, IDS probe evaluation, identifying unexpected new servers, identifying open ports for protectively protect the network and security admin, attacking it. They are hackers. So many reason why scanning need, or why we need to know scanning for our safety issues in our network. So another scanning is port scanning, a version stealth scan to gather information about target sites while avoiding detection, try to hide themselves among normal network traffic, not to be logged by logging. Stealth mechanism, stealth and techniques. track probe packets, also called inverse mapping. Response is sent back only by close port by determining what services do not exist, and intruder can infer what service do exist. Slow scan rate, difficult to detect, need long history log. So, it's a version of port scanning. Another one useful tool is host discovery. Querying multiple hosts using the method is referred to as a ping sweeps. Many ping is there, is ping or ping 5. The most basic step in mapping out a network is host discovery. Several sweeps technique, ICMP sweeps, broadcast ICMP, non-echo ICMP, TCP sweep, UDP sweep. It's all about sweeps technique. Uh, you can do it any network or secure your own networking area by host discovery and no other network connection. Port scanning detection. So it's really helpful for scanning, port scanning detection, for administrators to detect scanning logs suspicious packets, identifies connections not properly terminated, actually not properly terminated, records ports as used. So some outline is there. So what is IP network scanning? Concepts and motivation. Example tool, Nmap, Genmap, or anything else. Scanning types, host discovery, port scanning, version detection, OS detection. Basically, OS detection, operating system detection is more powerful. Uh, so there is many types of scanning: external vulnerability scanning, internal vulnerability scanning, authorized scanning. So there is many types of scanning, and what scanning you need depends on what is your attacked or targeted website or targeted networking. It depends that. So scan direction, external or internal, two types of scanning. CAN servers and applications directly accessible to north-south traffic between the corporate firewall and the public internet. Or internal scan servers and apps that could be compromised by lateral east-west traffic once the local network has been accessed. Level of access privileges, unauthenticated and authenticated. So non-credential scanners discover services open to and available over the network and send packets to ascertain OS versions, current status such as open file shares and more. And authenticated credential scanners have privileged access to more detailed precise system information such as OS and other software versions and configurations. Scope of devices and scan limited and comprehensive, focuses on a particular device such as limited option and scans operating systems installed software, user account information, and more across almost all devices attached to the network. And limited is mobile phones, virtual machine, firewalls, and other network appliances. So many types of vulnerability assessment scans nowadays. So types of vulnerability assessment scans: network based scans, host based scans, wireless scans, application scans, database scans. So what is network based scans? Identifies possible network security attacks and vulnerable systems on network. And host based scans finds vulnerabilities in workstations, servers, or other network hosts and provides visibility into configuration, setting, and patch history. Wireless scan identifies access points and validates that a company's network is securely configured. And application scans detects known software vulnerabilities and misconfigurations in network or web apps. And database scans identify the weak points in database. So that's it for today. I give a basic example, basic overview of all type of scans. So have a good day. Hello there. So today I will talk about types and techniques of scanning. Let's talk about network scan. Check this diagram. Find all live hosts. Hello there. So today I'll talk about JAP. OWASP JAP is an open source web application security. It is intended to be used by both those new to application security as well professional penetration testers. It is one of the most active open web application security projects and has been given flagship status. So now I can show you the JAP. First I open my virtual box and start Kali Linux. Actually, JAP provides a range of options for security automation. Check out the automation docs to start automating. Okay, now open the JAP. I installed it. Just simply Google it and download the JAP. Software security testing is the process of accessing and testing a system to discover security risks and vulnerabilities of the system and its data. There is no universal terminology, but for our purposes, we define assessments as the analysis and discovery of vulnerabilities without attempting to actually exploit those vulnerabilities. We define testing, the discovery and attempt exploitation of vulnerabilities. So, vulnerability assessment, the system is scanned and analyzed for security issues. Okay, opening the software. This system also undergoes analysis and security testing from an end user. The app is designed especially for testing web application and is both flexible and extensible. At its core, JAP is what is known as a man in the middle proxy. It stands between the testers. So here is all the options: analysis. I cannot show you any attack because of my security safety purpose, but I can show you all the tools and all the options including JAP. If there is browser and web application, there is another network proxy already in use. As in many corporate environments, JAP can be configured to connect to that proxy, browser to network proxy and web application. JAP provides functionality for a range of skill levels, from developers to testers, new to security testing specialists. You can give any targeted URL. The ZAP desktop user interface is composed to the elements like I show you: menu bar, toolbar, tree window, workspace window, information window, footer. Important to notice is that you should only use ZAP to attack an application you have permission to test with an active attack, because this is a simulation that acts like a real attack. Actual damage can be done to a site's functionality data. If you are worried about using ZAP, you can prevent it from causing harm. ZAP's functionality will be significantly reduced by switching to safe mode. So here is all the information and vulnerabilities found by the ZAP. ZAP provides two spiders for crawling web applications. You can use either or both of them from this screen. The traditional ZAP spider, which discovers links by examining the HTML in responses from the web application. This spider is fast, but it is not always effective when exploring an Ajax web application that generates link using JavaScript. Active scanning, however, attempts to find other vulnerabilities by using known attacks against the selected targets Active scanning is a real attack on those targets and can put the targets at risk. So, interpret your test results as Zap spiders your web application. It constructs a map of your web application's pages, the resources used to render those pages. Then it records the requests and responses sent to each page and creates alerts if there is something potentially wrong with the request or response. The desktop also makes heavy use of context-sensitive right-click options also. So right-click everywhere while you are getting used to the user interface. There are many tabs that are not shown by default. They can be accessed by the right-hand tabs with green plus icons. You can pin any tabs you would like to always appear by right-clicking on them. Many of the tabs hidden by default will appear when relevant for.
So let's perform some scanning in this lecture. So the first one we will be using is ping. So a more familiar tool to perform scanning is ping. Ping is a utility that can be used to determine network connectivity by determining if the remote host is up or down. While a very simple utility, it is perfect for performing an initial scanning process. To use the ping command, you just simply type both on Windows and Linux ping like google.com both. So this is the same command for both Windows and Linux. However, it will repeatedly ping the remote client until you press Ctrl C to terminate the process. So there is another way to ping a remote system that you should be aware of, which is performing ping using nmap. So you can use this nmap both on Linux and also on Windows. The command will be same. So just type nmap minus sp minus b and the target IP address that you want to scan. Like I want to scan my IP address, this one. So if the command successfully find a live host, it will return a message stating that the IP address is up and provide the media access control, which is MAC, and the network card. As you can see, because I am not running on anything in this IP address, so if you just type 1, okay, 1.1, and it will show you a deeper result in here using nmap. So let's wait a couple of seconds, because nmap takes a couple of seconds. As you can see, it shows the MAC address and also the router that I'm using, that I set. So the up one level from ICMP scan is like ping sweep. So named because I've used this technique to scan a sweep or sweep a range of IP looking for live host. Once again, nmaps provide useful information, helping by allowing you to perform a quick scan. To do this, simply type nmap minus sp minus pe minus pa and port like 21, 23, 80, and also like 3389. Let's scan host on 192.168.1.1 to 10. Ping sweeps are incredibly effective in that they can build an inventory of system quickly. However, there are some potential drawback. As you can see, 3 host is up, which is this one, and MAC address, and also nmap is down on 10 IP addresses. First, you must overcome the fact that many network administrators block ping at the firewall. So, pinging host from outside the network is impossible without extra effort. Second, an intrusion detection system or IPS will often be present on a larger network or in a larger enterprise environment, and this system will alert the system owner and shut down the scan. Finally, due to the way of this scan works, there really isn't any capability in the scan to detect systems that are down. In some cases, ping will hang up in a few moments before informing and you cannot reach a host. So that's all for Nmap. Let's use another one, which is hping3. So ping is not only game in town, in fact it is a limited somewhat. So while we examining hping in here in our command, let's take a look at the couple of the features that will provide useful information. First, let's see how we can make hping3 act like ping. So this command will cause the utility to transmit an ICMP request and receive a reply. hping3 -l and domain name like google.com. So 192.168.1 okay, I think they changed some of the options on hping3. So let's see all of the options. Okay, as you can see, they are receiving a ICMP mode on my IP address. As you can see, it is both receiving and also reply. So we can do this and it will continue running until you type Ctrl+C to terminate. So next, let's check if there is a firewall blocking ping request. So we can do this by attempting to get a packet with an ACK flag to send to the target. So let's type our command, which is again hping3 -c1. Then we'll define verbose mode by -v. Then we'll be using -p to define our port, which will be 80, and -s for the port source of the number where the packet will originate, which will be 5050, and -a will be the domain name 192. So I am using all of those scanning on my own domain. So as you can see, so system is alive and it shows all of those ports, sequences and all of those. So one packet is received. So the system is alive and the port target is open. However, if no response is returned, then there may be very well firewall between the scanner and the target. So that's all for the hping3. So let's search for TCP flags. So among the simplest utilities you can use on hping3, so both of the utilities are command line, both hping3 and also nmap. So all of those are command interface. So let's create a ACK packet and send it to port 80 to the victim. So just type simply hping3 -a target IP address, which is my own IP address, and we'll define port by typing -p and port 80. So as you can see, it is creating a ACK packet and send it to the port 80, as you can see. So let's terminate. Create a SYN scan. So similarly, hping 3 -8 52 56 minus s target and then target IP address and -v. So as you can see, this created a scan against a defined port on a victim. As you can see, this TCL scripting is capable. So now create a fin URG and phfish flags and set it to the port 80 to the victim. Similarly, hping 3 -f -p -u target IP address and define our port as 80. So as you can see, you can use and test all of those like UDP, ICMP, IP, and also all of those use cases using this hping 3 tool. So as you can see, it sent 23 packets and it is an 100% packet loss. So round trip is 0. So let's try a couple of the scan which okay. Let's try nmap scan. So again, in order to perform a full open scan, you must choose to perform a TCP connect scan using -st switch, where is -s indicate the scan and minus and capital T stands for the scan type, which is TCP connect. So let's try nmap -s for scan and capital T for scan type and 192.168.1.1. So it will, when the command is executed, the host will be scanned and a report will be returned. Keep in mind that when you perform these types of scan, it is very noisy and it will show up in logs just waited to discover. Use this scan sparingly when no other scan will work. As you can see, port 80 TCP is open and also TCP is open which service. So a couple of the services open and this is scan on our MAC address, which is this one. So if you want to scan an stealth or half scan, which is very much similar to this, just simply type nmap -s to scan and capital S to stealth scan 192.168.1.1 and it will give you the result that is less likely to trigger the detection mechanism and ending will be being in log. But the downside is that it is less reliable than a full open scan because the information is not received during the process due to the lack of final ACK, as you can see. So let's use Xmas tree scan. To perform Xmas tree scan with nmap, just simply type nmap -s, then capital X for Xmas tree, -v to bearers mode, 192.168.1.1 for your IP. So make sure you always choose a IP address that you have or that you own, so that you doesn't destroy other machine. So as you can see, the scan is already running on 1000 ports. It is a long scan, so it will take some time, but eventually it will show up the results. As you can see, not shown on 100 TCP port because these are not opened, and also you can know your MAC address and other stuff. So that's all of the stuff that you can do using Nmap and HPing3 for scanning purposes. Hello everyone, so in this lecture I'm going to give you an example of scanning. So in this video we are going to be looking at the NICTO, which is a web vulnerability scanner or a website. So it's a web server that security scanner that scans on your web server or your WordPress or any other server that you have. And you know, it's a very fantastic tool for detecting vulnerabilities on the server, right? So now the thing that I like about the NICTO is that I use it a lot. I mean a lot in the professional full professional projects. It's really detect the server misconfiguration. Now what do I mean? You know that most of the time, you know, the system administrator or you know the people you actually set up the web hosting, they really don't know what they are doing. So when this comes, you know, there may be like the information for living or subdomain which will be like wide open for people to know, and just to find them the further so that they can exploit. But you know, just finding random server configuration like misconfiguration or misconfiguring ports, that so now let's see something like that has a like get and post comment or all that great stuff that which you know that might sound a bit confusing to you, but if you are beginner now then it will be all right. I'll talk more details in here how these NICTO tools works. So and we'll be moving along. So using this tool is like a bug suite, like burp suite. So we'll get it which into the in depth. So now let's get started. Now I'm going to be using a web server for Apache, most importantly the Apache web server for the testing purpose that I actually configured, and the IP address will be the IP address of the Apache server, and I also tested out it works so that I can use this Apache web server for this testing. You can indeed test on this like mine in any Apache web server or that being hosted on the Debian server for the testing purpose, or you can use your own server or your own WordPress website or server that you own for this testing. Make sure you test only on that you own, and I would not recommend to test on a server that you don't own, because it will give the problem to that specific website or web server that people own. So make sure you always I recommend to test on your web server or on your WordPress web server. And for the thing that I need to mention about being tested on a WordPress site, make sure you're going to log into the WordPress site and update the WordPress version and the plugins to make it more secure that way, and it becomes more secure and becomes a little bit more challenging for the testing. So alright, for now we're going to be using and we're going to learn how to use NICTO. So I already did all of this, so let's just, it's very easy. You can just type NICTO in here, it will give you the graphical interface as you can see, but we are not going to use this. We are going to use the command line interface for better work purpose or convenient, because it is very easy, as we know it's very easy. And just what you have to do now is pretty simple. First we are going to look up the help option for the command that you are going to use. So we are going to look at how to use the NICTO to scan vulnerabilities that we might find on the site. So it's very simple. Just open up your command terminal, just hit the NICTO, and then done. You're done. Then for this help option, you just type help, and it will give you all the information. And most specifically, the command that we are going to be looking at is this. from the beginning that we can be sorted really well. This is why I really like Nikto. Now some of you might be asking or might have a question comes on your mind that, well, you should ask about the WordPress scan. Doesn't this just do the exact same thing? Well, the WordPress scan is the only that designed to sniff out the vulnerabilities on a WordPress website. The good thing about Nikto is that it works on any web server or website for that matter. And you know what, once you know that, it's really fun and fantastic because it works on any site or any web server that we have already seen. So let's get what these commands do. Now some of the most important commands are the DB check, which checks database and other key files for the syntax errors. Then format, which saves file. Then help, that extends the help information. Then you have to have a plugin to list all the plugins. Then you have output, which allow you to output the result into a file, very important. So if you are penetration tester, you always should have a documentation of all those scans that you are performing. And you have a SSL, which for the SSL mode into a port, which we are going to be using. So in this video we are going to be specifying the use of default port, and for us the default port is 80. So which I will show you how to specify, and you can also change the port if you want to, which would make a lot of sense unless you are performing some sort of serious scan that is more specialized. Then you have your first necessary mode on the port, which is not that important, and you don't actually come across a lot of that, and you can actually update it and you can print it plugin in a later based version if you want to. So let's get started with the command that we're going to be using. So I'm going to just type in Nikto and specify the host -h, and which is the h command, and we're going to use this Apache server. And after this I would use this website address. This is the domain of the IP address, and I'm going to do this website, and we're gonna select that, and I'm gonna type h command, which I am using. As you can see, this is the h command. This is the host that I know that specify the port. So for port we are gonna specify the port -p, and the port is 80. As you can see, the default port is 80, so you can define any port in here. So as you can see, I am just defining the port, specify the port 80. You can choose anyone you want. So you use P for specifying the port, which is both 80. So if you just press enter, it will take some time, but it will give you a lot of vulnerabilities on this web server, as you can see in here. So we already know that, as we already passed, this is the Debian server on Apache. So it already has, as you can see, XSS protection not defined, so it is already a vulnerable web server. So you make sure you always check your own, because this must be defined, because otherwise this is not safe for users. So because I'm using on a testing server, that's why I did not define this XSS. And this is very huge vulnerability, because this will be looking and to exploit all of this, and to upload the vulnerability and all of those good stuff, because a lot of guys have been like doing a lot of penetration testing and trying to get the information. So make sure you do this, because hacking on a web is a different ballgame. While this is very tricky, and because the every site is configured differently. So alright, it gives us already returned all the result, and you can see all the vulnerabilities in here. That's the script. So as you can see, this is given all of those vulnerability that found. As you can see, the PHP backdoor file manager, all of those was found in here, and these are all the vulnerability. So there is a lot of important stuff that we are able to gather in here. Again, it would be much more wise to scan a WordPress site with a WordPress scan, but for other website this is very fantastic. And this is how to scan for vulnerabilities that exist on a web server. And in this case, let's look at one more command, which is for the output command, when we are going to save all of this on a file. So after that, so as you can see, I am on a root directory. You can choose any directory as you want. So I'm gonna save all the save will be saved on this root directory. So we're gonna use this same command, nicto h same. We're gonna use this web server -p for defining the port 80, -o for outputting the result, and we're gonna name this file as nicto_result, and we're gonna define this extension, this file extension, as txt. As you can see, I did a lot of mistake in here because I did some mistake. As you can see, your extension should be just txt, not .txt, because this is the extension file, so it should be just simple as just extension name. And the main thing is that the defining F should be capital. As you can see, it should be capital, as I made some mistake in here. So the capital and then txt. So in overall, I just call it the nicto result, and that's a good to name your documentation appropriately. And now we want to specify the file type, which in case you can say the command of capital F to specify the file type of the file extension. So in this case, I'm going to select the txt just to keep things basic, and just press enter. And this is going to start the scanning process. This will take some time, like 2 to 3 minutes, and once the scanning process is complete, it's going to give us the actually saving the data in a real time, and it's will performing the scan as well. So just give it a couple of minutes. After completing the scan, we will be able to see whether or not the information was stored in the file that we specified in the stored. So we will be looking at this vulnerability. So let's move along. By the first thing is that what we've got, and we've got like gather information on a web server or a website, and this is just a basic, just getting started, and this is very good to customize the tool. So as you can see, this is completed. As you can see, one hosted is tested because this is the host one defined. You can use a couple of more if you want. So what you have to do now is you have to go to this directory where you have saved the file. So let's just open it as root. Because you cannot open root directory without root permission. So as you can see, nicto result, as you can see. So let's just open the file. So this is very important. They are specifically for the penetration testing, because this is going to be the Nikto that will be moving along with this, and we know we'll be looking for cross-site scripting, how to bulk suit, and you can test any other way or any other thing that you want, but this is the basic way that you can test for scanning purpose for any WordPress or WordPress site or any website that you own or that you have. I guess you guys found value in this lecture, and that's all for this.